Hey friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is Nick Patoski. He's going to share some great stories about Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie was part of the musical fabric when I hit town in 1973. There was a club called the One Night, Knite, a block away from the police station. It's now kind of the core of a club called Stubbs, much better known. It was mainly blues bands, never a cover. And it was just this crappy little shoebox you walked into, and you smelled vomit at the door, vomit and leftover vomit and Lysol. The door was kind of shaped like it was a coffin entrance, and they had all these appliances and stuff like sinks and crap hanging from the wall. But it's where the blues bands played. Jimmy Vaughan's band Storm would play there. Stevie would play there with the Nightcrawlers, which was a band with Doyle Bramhall Sr. Then Stevie joined this band, the Cobras, and they played there a lot. And these were white blues players from all over Texas that had converged on Austin like the country and folky guys had. But here we can play our music. And it didn't necessarily translate over to East Austin, which was African American. It was kind of a self-contained little scene. One of my favorite hang clubs was this place, Soap Creek Saloon, which was west of Austin. And it was a roadhouse, the end of a dirt road, Caliche Road. Could maybe hold 200 people at best. So I became kind of a regular at Soap Creek because it wasn't just Doug Somm. They had weekly residencies of local bands. And probably the most popular residency, well, there was Alvin Crow in his, at the time, the Neon Angels, his band, retro Western swing. But probably the most popular residency were the Cobras. Paul Ray was a singer, and he had this band, the Cobras. He had two guitarists, this guy, Denny Freeman from Dallas. Paul Ray was from Dallas. Denny was this hotshot guy that could play everything. And his younger protege, the second guitarist, was a guy, Stevie Ray Vaughan. He was little Stevie Vaughan, or Stevie Vaughan, Stevie. We go see the Cobras a lot. Tuesday night, Cobra Car Club, where they'd have 25-cent shots of tequila. It was a wild crowd, and people would follow the Cobras. I was a little more into the Storm, and certainly when the Fabulous Thunderbirds started around 1975, I was definitely partial to that band. The Cobras were good, but they weren't my favorite band. Denny was like one of the best blues guitarists in a town with many blues guitarists, and Stevie was kind of that. He was the protege. He was learning, but people didn't go nuts over Stevie. More people would talk about Jimmy Vaughan as kind of this guitarist and his little brother Stevie. So I remember I lived in South Austin. And I remember going over with Bill Campbell, who was kind of the great unsung white blues guitar player, who was a mentor or an elder really to the Vaughns and all the Antone's blues scene. Bill was an Austin native and a character. And I remember going walking down a couple blocks from where I lived on South 5th to go hang out with Campbell. And we ended up going another block over towards South 6th Street, to where Denny lived, and there was Stevie there, and hanging out with Denny. And Stevie, the whole time I'm there, Stevie is just kind of in the corner, playing this guitar, and kind of listen to conversation. You can join he'd join in every now and then, but this is all he's doing. And just, to me, this was the obsession. Here's a guy that I'm not sure he can tie his shoes. He's kind of a mess when you look at him, but he's obsessed, and that obsession is going to lead to something. I think it's pretty clear. You see that it was within a year or so. Stevie breaks away from the Cobras, and he wants to start a band. And it's the Triple Threat Review. He gets one of the elder black players in town, W.C. Clark. He convinces W.C. to join the band. He gets Lou Ann Barton, who I knew from Fort Worth. She moved down and briefly sang with the Thunderbirds, and then she joins the band. And at one point, my brother-in-law joins the band, Johnny Reno, a sax player. He's from Fort Worth. And that's another, some of the Fort Worth blues people start coming down. People from all over Texas, it's like, you're coming to Austin because you can make the music you want. And not many musical tribes, but there's a Western swing neo classical country community. There's the Cosmic Cowboys like Michael Murphy and all that. And there's this really solid blues scene. And it really blows up. Of course, the blues scene gets solidified in 1975 when Clifford Antone opens his club. Antone's on 6th Street in Austin. And there have been clubs before, but this is a white blues club this guy's pouring a lot of money into it. Nice room. And he's bringing in bands that appeal to this white crowd. I mean, his first band is Clifton Chenier, who he steals from Soap Creek Saloon. And Clifton becomes a regular there. He brings in a lot of Louisiana bands. But then he brings in the Chicago acts. And certainly like Muddy Waters. And then he starts bringing in, like Bobby Lou Bland and Little Milton to bring in a crowd from East Austin, a black crowd. It's great. Antone's value, it just can't be quantified. And, I remember seeing the Thunderbirds play there that first year that Antone's opened. During the week, they wouldn't have the big headliners. I got to see Jimmy Reed there 2 weeks before he died. And Jimmy spent his time patting on my girlfriend's knee. And I didn't mind. I was kind of flattered. He had white shoes and a white belt. It was beautiful. But I remember seeing the Thunderbirds there. There aren't 5 people in the house. But those 5 people, that's when Bob Dylan and some of his review come over to hear. He's listening to Vaughan. And you can see things are going. No one's talking about Stevie. Stevie is the puppy. He's kind of the eager young puppy behind him. But he's starting this new band, and he's playing like the Continental. He plays the Oztex Lounge, After Hours, wherever he can play. And I get reports. I mean, he comes over to my house sometimes because my brother-in-law is playing with him. And when Johnny comes to town, he's staying with me. And Stevie comes over a few times. We sit and visit. And it's all pretty casual stuff, nothing big. But my brother-in-law ended up as Triple Threat morphed into Double Trouble. And Luann stayed with him, but my brother-in-law quit after about a year and a half. And the band's playing like Lubbock. They play Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, that circuit where you can play the club circuit and survive and still play Austin. But my brother-in-law, Stevie's doesn't know how to handle money, and the money's going to him, and he's a fuck up. He's not going to go anywhere. And he quits about 2 years before things start heating up for Stevie. But, he had a good career with the Juke Jumpers, went on and played with Chris Isaak for years, touring with him. He did all right. But it was interesting because he thought that Stevie didn't have his act together. And he could play. And so by 78 or so, this is where the Rome Inn starts entering the picture, that the Thunderbirds start a residency on Monday night at the Rome Inn. And it's a happening. And this is just as the Thunderbirds get signed to Tacoma Records and start touring. And first they go up to the Northeast and they discover Lupo's and Providence, and the Roomful of Blues discovers this band from Texas that's doing what we're doing, except these guys are the real shit. And they didn't learn from records. They get direct transmission. And this is the difference in Texas. You can learn, every time these bands came in from Chicago that Clifford Antone brings them in, he gets Luther Tucker. Why don't you stick around this week? I'll just pay you. You hang. And so he hangs around Austin for 2 or 3 weeks. Hubert Sumlin. So it's not like you just watch these guys play. You end up, I'm taking Big Walter Horton out to eat catfish at a catfish farm and restaurant east of town with my friend Leon, who owns OK Records. And the whole trip we're doing is arguing with Big Walter because he swears that the El Dorado is made by Lincoln Continental. No, it's a General Motors car. No, I swear to God, that's right. So, you get to hang with these people. And that's where direct transmission happens. Stevie not only got to hear Albert King play. He got to hang with Albert King. And Albert King was like notorious for not putting up with these white kids. He didn't want to truck with any of these people. Stevie, he could hear for the very first time, Clifford, can this guy sit in with you? Yeah. Okay. And he plays like me, and he's got the same kind of, I'm playing the same kind of strings. He's got the same kind of hands. Well, this is an immediate mentorship that blossoms. So gave this direct transmission. It's all the difference in the world. So Thunderbirds go to Northeast. Hey, these guys are the real shit, and they dress real. They dress cool. And then they go over to England, and Nick Lowe and Dave Edmunds here, and they flip out. So, they ended up, Lowe ends up producing the Thunderbirds, and they become a thing unto themselves. That was a blues band. So they would play Monday night at Rome Inn. Billy Gibbons, who was with ZZ Top, and ZZ Top at the time, were not allowed to sit in with anyone. That was a Bill Ham kind of orchestration. You can't sit in. We have to build up this mystique. So instead, Billy Gibbons, every Monday night, would show up in a limousine driving up from Houston with all these beautiful women with him. They would be part of the crowd. The Rolling Thunder Review came to the Rome Inn. And I remember that's when Peter Sheridan, Chief Boohoo in Hunter Thompson's Fear and Loathing book, who had become part of Willie Nelson's entourage, he was a Hell's Angel, the one Hell's Angel that was such an iconoclast. He wasn't actually a member, but they tolerated him. Sheridan came and became part of Willie's entourage, but he's hanging out here. And when Rolling Thunder comes through, I remember at the Rome Inn, you want to meet Joni Mitchell? Sure. And he grabs me, and we go out to the dance floor where Joni Mitchell's dancing. Joni! And she kind of pulls her around, and at first it's kind of like, and then oh, Peter, hi! And you're my friend Joe Nick. On the dance floor, nice to meet you. It's that kind. It's a heavy scene at the Rome Inn when the Thunderbirds are playing on Monday night. Stevie's playing on Sunday night for $1, and he's not drawing a crowd. And the take is, and I know some fans of Stevie's. It's, man, he's destined for greatness. I remember my good friend Peppy Plowman, who was she was Janis Joplin's roommate at UT early on. Peppy was one of the first, like, Stevie's the guy. He's the best. Oh, no, here's the deal. My take was, and this is why I like the Thunderbirds, Jimmy was the master of economy. It's not what he played the notes, it's that space between the notes. Stevie, on the other hand, the young, eager puppy, wanted to show you everything he knew every time he got a lead break. And he was the guy he was the only blues guy that he played that Hendrix shit. So, the blues crowd in Austin was, how pure can you be? How much can you do it like the original or whatever? And here Stevie was like, he's too far over the top.